Welcome back. I'm Ted, and this is the Real Ted G podcast. Thanks for joining me. I have my producer Bing in on this right here.
Hey guys.
Yeah, so today we wanted to actually discuss a quick topic. I'm sure everyone deals with it. So it's something that everyone deals with, but not everyone deals with it the same. And it's the word anxiety.
It's a fun one. You know, I used to be like really anxious, especially when I was younger. And around that time, let's say about 10 years ago, medication was being pushed on, kids my age to remedy the problem of anxiety. And for me, man, like, I never really was into that because I always thought like, okay, like this is just how I'm feeling. I'm feeling this type of way because this is going on. Like, it's not, especially when you're that young, man, everyone's nervous at 15, 16 years old. Like, who isn't? Everyone's insecure.
15, 16. Yeah. Listen, I'm positive I have undiagnosed AD. Oh, is it ADD? ADHD?
Yeah, they're both
ADT?
the same.
AT&T?
Anything but AT&T.
So I was never put on medication. Not even to date. So I mean, there's a lot of schools of thought for medication. I do think that a lot of people bring on their own anxiety. I'll bring it back to real estate for a second. I know that's so unlike me for you, but it's like sometimes we do make our own problems. Sometimes we overthink. So when you overthink, you obviously overanalyze, and then suddenly it puts more pressure on you, and suddenly like something that should be a passing thought becomes an all-consuming idea and focus and drain. So I had heard this phrase a long time ago, and it kind of like it's nice to always try to remember it. Don't sweat the little stuff, and almost everything is little stuff. Out there, I see people with problems, and I'll call them, sometimes I'll say, oh, no, see, that is an issue. That is a problem, death, sickness, illness, serious illnesses. So when we might focus on, tell me something, Bing, tell me something, something that people get anxiety over.
I don't know, you're walking into a place and people looking at you in a weird fashion, or getting rejected from a job or a romantic situation.
Rejection, and could you side note that? Let's talk about rejection in about, maybe we'll talk about it at the end. I like that topic, but okay. Anxiety. So I know people. I have family members that I believe think just like you, what you just said. Anxiety about like walking into somewhere and people looking at you. See, I take it the other way. Yeah. I would have anxiety if people didn't look at me, and I have that anxiety all the time. I'm like, look at me now. But again, that's a little thing. Don't sweat the little things, and almost everything is a little thing. And then
it doesn't help that a lot of therapists and psychologists do push drugs to medicate little things, when it's really, you just need to go outside and do things. Like for me, I overcame a lot of anxiety from just working out, going outside, making goals for myself. Focusing on myself.
Yep. You mentioned the big E, and I don't mean that drug that was in the 90s. Although, do people still do it today? No. Do you know what I'm? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But you mentioned the big E word, exercise. That is an amazing technique. That if you can replace anxious feelings, if you start to exercise and you start to create those natural endorphins, and you just start to enjoy that endorphin high, and you'll see that a lot of different things are not going to apply. And in fact, if you exercise enough, suddenly it's not going to matter who's in a room that could look at you, because you're going to look great. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's just amazing. Drinking water and exercising, two of the things we don't do enough of, but it's the two things that can really change your whole life and your whole perspective.
And the thing is, too, a lot of people that do suffer from symptoms of anxiety, it doesn't help that they're smoking pot, doing other drugs, they're medicated and drinking, and then you're not moving. A lot of people it's a bad lifestyle choices are what cause it. And I know a lot of people, I've said this in the past too, it's like, you don't need anxiety, you need to go for a walk. They'll be like, yeah, it's a disability. But I'm like, okay, bro, I'm speaking from experience. Like, just try that first before you take the medicine. And if you're still feeling the same after making these positive changes, then go on the medication. But don't just take the meds and then go. Because the thing is, too, a lot of these anxiety meds, you're not supposed to drink. You're not supposed to drive even.
And what's the fun in that if you can't drink?
Exactly. Let alone you can't drink and drive. No, I'm just kidding. But, it's like these people are drinking, they're smoking, and they're like smoking pot while they're on this medication. So it's going to mess them up. There's no positive changes from that I've seen, at least, with people that take medication.
Unfortunately, it seems to only treat the symptom and not the actual what's it called? So you're treating the symptoms, but you're not treating the disease.
Yeah, like
And
that's a lot of medication today, a lot of medicine today.
that's a lot. I mean, yeah, it's true. Everyone seems to do it. I mean, I have no problem admitting I do drink alcohol. Sometimes a great deal of it too, but I try to avoid it as well because I'd rather get the results that I get from going to the gym and exercising regularly. And I know that's a whole different topic, so we'll get to that maybe next week.
That'll be a fun one.
But yeah, and back to anxiety. I don't know what the solve is. Not that I'm an expert or anyone should listen to anything I say. The only thing is we all go through it. Anxiety exists. I don't think there's any way to eliminate it. Having an enormous amount of money technically doesn't eliminate it. It probably adds to it. Whether you're seeing someone, having a significant other in your life or not, I don't think that eliminates it either, because I think that also anxiety is anxiety. Different things happen. Life happens. There's always something to deal with. I guess at the end of the day, anxiety is a part of life, and I think the great part is to be able to deal with it. It's a lot like dealing with a difficult person, and whether when you're in school and it's a bully, or in the workplace, a different type of non-positive. See, I didn't say the N-word. I'm not saying the N-word. I like to try to eliminate the N-word. Because I think even by saying it just brings it in. But let's pretend a non-positive type of person who maybe, I'll use a different word, nags, and just the way you deal with them is more important than that person to add to your own anxiety. So again, that's all choices. See, this is where my mind, and I'm not saying that I don't have ups and downs sometimes. Anyone that tells you they don't, they're obviously over medicating. But my mind tries to, or does its best to, not even try to always look at the positive side, and just the whole old phrase, killing people with kindness. I know there's people that say bad things about me, and maybe one or two of those things are accurate. But at the end of the day, it's how you deal with it in your own mind. And I try to just focus on positive, focus on let's move on, move forward. We grow, or either we grow or somebody goes. So anyway, back to your anxiety topic.
Well, it's. I think you made some really great points. You either grow or you let go, and I think part of growing is letting go. I feel like every time that at least I grow as a person, and I stand up for myself, and I understand what's good and what's not good, in ways to be treated. People weed themselves out, because once you say, "Yo, I don't like the way this is going no more," that person might
watch the double negatives. I use the word. No, I don't like the way this is going anymore.
Oh, yeah. So I used to be in honors English, as everyone can tell. But I just for me at least, when it comes to anxiety too, I notice a lot of people own their anxiety. So they'll say my anxiety, or they'll say my depression. It's not yours. It's a human feeling. If you take ownership of it, it's harder to look at it objectively and find ways to mitigate its effects.
I've never heard that reference, but I guess it is out there. My anxiety. Oh, because it's something very specific to them, or yeah. Okay. Oh, interesting. See, I learn something new every day.
My mom actually pointed that out too. I never realized it, because she's a mental health counselor, and she was a lot of people own their illnesses, or a lot of people own like the negative effects of an illness or a.
Does it really? But is it actually that they own it, or that they allow it to own them?
I guess a little bit of both. That's a good question. I'm not too sure about the answer to that. Yeah. I guess they allow it to own them because I've seen a lot of people use anxiety as an excuse to not get a driver's license, to not get a job, to not get better, you know? So I guess they're allowing it to own them.
Yeah, and that goes for anything in life. Our surroundings or our environment, you should own them. You be your own person and not allow them to own you. You know, even, financial circumstances. I had gotten some really good advice from someone a while back. Financial circumstances, ups and downs. Life happens. Nowadays I can actually say it. I've been around long enough that I have experienced so much life, good, not so good. But when let's pretend a financial crisis is happening to someone. If you spend your whole day or your entire existence thinking about that while you're trying to do other things and be successful at other things, for instance, work or career, or family, obviously, or raising children, then you're allowing your financial circumstances, in this particular case, let's pretend, to own you and to affect everything from that moment. And the advice that I was told, or I had heard repeated to me, was that take all those issues, take your financial issues, and sit down and think about them for a specific amount of time. Let's pretend 45 minutes. Between like the hours of 9 and 9:45 a.m. And then see what you can do to deal with them, and then put them away and don't let them affect the rest of your day. And it definitely is true. That is great advice for real estate, because we're out there with people, and it's you can't you can't have a different attitude towards a customer or a client. They deserve your best. They deserve, they sign on for a specific level of service, and they deserve to have you at your best. It's a lot like, obviously, you don't want a doctor having a bad day and obviously he's not paying attention. So that was really good advice, and I don't know if people can deal with it for anxiety, but let's pretend, you pick an example of what brings you anxiety. Think about it, deal with it, work on ways to deal with it, whether it's, slow or fast. Obviously, you're going to say, okay, let me take these steps. Do it. Don't let it consume your entire day. Let it consume a minuscule portion of your day, and then allow everything else. Allow your life. Allow yourself to be, and be in the moment as well. So I try to take that advice whenever possible. Sometimes we're all human, and we're all sometimes overly dramatic. But that's the fun part of being human.
I'd say so. I mean, listen, I've had
that's when you're supposed to ask, are you positive? And you're going to say, so I'm going on record that I'm human.
Are you positive, Mr. Gounelas?
Mm-hmm. I feel like I like Mr. G better.
Mr. G?
Yeah. I don't think anyone should ever call me Mr. Gounelas.
Okay.
But I told a new agent, he's only 19 years old, and I said to him, I'm comfortable with you calling me Mr. G. And he's like, oh, okay. I said, yeah, I think it's better that way. I said, people are going to look at you differently by you saying Mr. G. And then I explained to him that Mr. T is taken.
Well, you could be better than Mr. T. You're the real estate agent that also kicks butt.
I know. I pity the fool.
Pity the fool that didn't use me to sell his house.
Ooh, that's a good ad text. Although I have a couple of other favorite agents. One of them works in my building. I would pity anyone who didn't use her either. But yeah, it's nice. Well, anyway, off topic there. But yes, Mr. G. I like Mr. G. You get to be Bing.
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 Mr. Bing.
Mr. G. Mr. Bing.
Bing and Mr. G, let's go. The best podcast duo.
This podcast gave me anxiety. It started off very slow and kind of boring, and it's like, oh no, we're going to talk about depression. Let's talk about the Great Depression. Now that I can smile about.
Maybe that's for a different episode. But why don't you tell the folks where they could find us?
They could find us on the Real Ted G podcast on Spotify. They could find us on the Real Ted G on YouTube, and the Real Ted G on Instagram, as well as obviously Facebook, which I need to Facebook, and I think I'm on TikTok, but I haven't been dancing in a while, so you might not see my reels on there. So anyway, this is Mr. G, and this is the Real Ted G podcast.